Learning to laugh at yourself is really important, especially when it comes to your visual impairment. So we're going to talk about that coming up right now. What's up, VIPs? Derek here, back with another video where it's all about helping you discover life after sight loss. On this channel, where I produce videos Mondays and Thursdays, we do product reviews, life advice, encouragement, how-tos, and so much more. So if you're new here and that sounds good to you, consider smashing that subscribe button so you don't miss another single video. In my time as a visually impaired person, I've heard about every blind joke there is to hear, and stick around towards the end because I'll give you a couple of my favorites. But blind jokes are made so that people laugh, so that people think it's funny, and so, that sort of thing. And I'm not here to talk solely about blind jokes. I'm here to talk about laughing at yourself, learning to have a good sense of humor, because the reality is you're going to do things that are funny. And so I want to talk about that in a couple of ways. First of all, laughing at yourself. Sometimes you're going to do things that are embarrassing. You're going to want to pick something up that's right in front of you, but you didn't know it was there. You're going to end up tripping and falling over something. You're going to do things that can be funny. Now, in those moments, they might be super embarrassing, and it might give you a really hard time and a complex, like, oh my gosh, my life's falling apart. But if you learn to just roll with it and laugh a little bit, I promise it's going to get easier. Especially if you have good friends around you who don't look at you any differently, who don't think you're a big klutz or an idiot for not seeing the thing right in front of you. If they're encouraging, you can learn to laugh. Now, speaking of those other people, that's the second thing. Sometimes people will want to make funny comments. Sometimes it's because they feel awkward, sometimes because they think it's hysterical and they've been waiting on it all week to tell you. And at times, that's perfectly acceptable. You need to be able to be like, that was funny, especially if they're clever, if they've thought about it. Sometimes you'll get the classic like, hey, do you want to drive me home? Or, oh, bet you didn't even see that coming. And look, those are fine and there's no problem with those things. I laugh, they laugh, it's a good time. But especially if they're really clever, those are the really good ones. Like, they put some thought into this. But at times, people want to make comments and they're not funny. Like, I had somebody tell me once, like, oh, but you couldn't even walk home. Well, that's not funny. What do you mean I can't walk home? I don't know. I don't understand. My blindness doesn't affect my walking ability. What does that mean? I watched a video once by Molly Burke, who's a fellow blind YouTuber, and she said that one time this guy was giving her food, and every time she'd reach for it, he'd pull the plate away, and she couldn't find it. And finally, somebody with her said, you need to stop doing that, and he was laughing. And she was like, why are you laughing? He's like, well, I know you like a good blind joke. And she's like, that's not a joke. That's not funny. You're making fun of me at my expense, and that's not funny. And so with all of these things, whether it's blind jokes, whether it's laughing at yourself, whether it's somebody making comments, you have to understand that if it's funny, if it's truly funny, laugh. It's a good time. But if it's not funny, if it's not clever, if it's not well thought out, if it's at your expense, if you're the butt of every joke, that's not cool. You need to take time, especially if you know those people, and be like, hey, listen, this isn't really funny. I don't want to be the butt of jokes. I don't mind laughing at myself. I'll have a good time. I'll make the jokes sometimes. I don't mind at all. But if this is an issue where you're making fun of me or it's at my expense, that's not helpful. So just remember to be bold, to be able to share those things. Don't be rude and crass and, be like, hey, you're a piece of junk and I hate, you don't have to say that. But you can say something to be like, hey, this isn't funny. I remember once I had a conversation with somebody and I said, I really don't like you at this point. And they're like, what? And it's like, you always make comments about my blindness that's not really funny. And they're like, wow, well, thanks for telling me. I really appreciate that. And it was really good. We were able to move on. And then when they did make comments, it was thought out, it was funny, I could laugh, it was clever, because I knew they heard me. And so, whether it's a joke, whether you're laughing, whether somebody else made a comment, whatever it is, learn to laugh, but also learn to speak up when it's really not that funny. And hey, here at the end, I promised you a couple of good blind jokes. Now, these aren't great, but there's some of my favorites. So, one is this: why don't blind people go skydiving? The answer? Because it scares the crap out of their dogs. Another good blind joke I like, it goes like this. A man's sitting on a bench on a street and he sees a gentleman walk up to a restaurant and go in with his dog. Now obviously that's a guide dog, but the gentleman thinks, this is a good idea. So he comes back the next day with his dog and he walks up and the person says, I'm sorry sir, we don't allow dogs in a restaurant. He said, it's okay, it's my guide dog. And the gentleman says, sir, I'm not an idiot, that's a Chihuahua. And the guy says, what? They gave me a Chihuahua? Oh. Anyway, there you go. There's a couple of my favorite blind jokes. Do you have any good blind jokes that you've heard? I'd love to hear about them. Make sure to share them in the comments below and share how you learn to laugh at yourself. Hey, if you like this video, if you found it helpful, make sure to give it a big thumbs up, share it with somebody you know, and smash that subscribe button so you don't miss another single video. And until next time, remember, sight loss isn't the end, it's just the beginning. My name's Derek Daniel from LifeAfterSightLoss.com, and I'll see you in the next one.